Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Wednesday, January 21st edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the Well Point Studios here in frigid downtown Lowell. But of course, Daily Pulse is always hot, and the local political scene red hot as well. Lots going on out there, and today the focus is on statewide office, in particular, the first Middlesex State Senate seat. Last week, we interviewed 𝐷𝐸𝐸, who's mounting a sticker/write-in campaign to get on the Republican ballot. On Monday, we had a debate between the two Democratic candidates, State Representative Rodney Elliott, State Representative Anna Howard. They were here for close to an hour discussing the issues that they're campaigning on and the issues that are important to folks out there in the district. Very highly viewed debate so far. If you haven't seen it, we encourage you to head on over and look at that. Look at the interview with 𝐷𝐸𝐸, and also to watch today's Daily Pulse, because joining us here in the Well Point Studios is the other candidate in the race. No, not Bill Samaras. He's just my...
I was thinking about it.
You want to announce your sticker campaign now?
No, we'll hold on that.
I tried to get you to announce on the air that you were running for the Democratic nomination. You didn't bite, though.
Okay, well, all right. We tried.
How are you, Mr.
Very good,
Samaras?
very good. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. You'd rather talk about this than our regular Wednesday discussion, which is coming off last night's Lowell City Council meeting.
Yes.
And the high school revelations that we continue to report is a disaster. But next week...
What high school are we talking about?
Yeah.
Lexington's new one?
You and I got to have a big conversation, because I'm finding out some more information now about Suffolk and Skanska and what went on during the selection process back in 2018 and 2019. And it's not pretty for the taxpayers of Lowell.
Should we continue?
That is for next week. That is a little hint of next week's episode. But today,
I might come back for that.
we mentioned
No. I'm on vacation next week.
the candidate vying for the state Senate seat, the first Middlesex State Senate seat, and he is running as an unenrolled candidate. He will be on the ballot on March 3rd. He will not be in the February 3rd primary. He's a familiar face to Lowell, to Dracut politics, and if I remember correctly, you ran for this seat once, though. Was it different towns, if I remember correctly?
It was different towns. It was Dracut, Tewksbury, Andover, and Lawrence.
That's what, and that was the... I'm
2018.
Name. Yeah.
That was Barry Feingold.
Barry Feingold
ran against
yes.
an empty seat that left by Barbara L'Italian.
Barbara L'Italian, yes. We are, of course, chatting with Joe Espinola, who's joining us here in the Well Point Studios. Formally, hello, Joe. Welcome. Your first visit here to the Well Point Studios. Where the hell have you been?
It is. That's what I'm saying. People say, "Oh, you're making a return." I said, "I've never been there." So yes, and you had mentioned with the last race that I ran in 2018, I ran against Barry Feingold. That seat at the time Dracut was included with Tewksbury, Lawrence, and Andover. At the time, and shortly right after that, they moved Dracut into Lowell. So now there's an open seat with the passing of Senator Kennedy, God rest his soul. The guy was a savior for the community. He definitely was a practical person as far as being able to do things for a lot of people across both sides. I might not have had conversations with him that we may have been on the same point just because we have differences of opinions, but I can honestly say that we've had conversations. He has asked me about things for a long time, about veterans, first responders, different things like that, construction things. He had a lot of questions in regards to the high school things going forward, because we had gone through that when I was at Greater Lowell. But the last time I physically saw the senator was last year at the Salvation Army telethon. We parked at that place down the street, Athenian Corner, and
thanks for the free plug.
and we walked down together. And at the time, he had just fell down the stairs and he wasn't having a good health, right? So I asked him how he was feeling and what was going on. And I had said to him, he said, "Well, why are you thinking about running against me?" I said, "No, I wouldn't run against you, but I definitely would be interested at some time if it came up in running." And I've had many conversations about other things over the last year and a half until his passing, he always called me back personally, which surprised me, but I found out that that's him. Usually somebody from his office would call or whatever, but I had a relationship with him, so it never bothered me. But now that I find out that was him, that was his type of stuff. So I plan on carrying that practical, cooperative attitude into the Senate seat and to pick up where he left off, put a fresh set of eyes, fresh set of ideas, fresh set of experiences into the district so that we can bring us out of the little funk that we're in right now and bring us into a different picture, both holistically, economically, mental health-wise, and economically, just to make everybody and have a better life moving forward.
He was thoughtful in every decision
Yes, he was.
made. So, I mean, I think as candidates running for this particular position, I think people will be looking for that.
Yes.
You know, am I a Democrat, am I a Republican, or am I going to work for the people of the area?
Yeah, and you guys know my politics, right? After it's funny you mentioned that 2018, right? That was around the time that I was on the presidential campaign committee, right, for the president that's there now, Mr. Trump. I left that campaign, ran for as a Republican. The only time I've ever had an R after my name, because you have to have a letter after your name to participate in these activities. So there's no way you can do it without a letter after your name. But a couple of weeks later, the same person who asked me to help out Trump asked me to help out Joe Kennedy, and I'm walking around for Friday, Saturday, Sunday around Centerville, Acre neighborhoods, walking around with Joe Kennedy, who last I knew he is a Democrat, and I was running around because I believed in what he was saying. I believed in things that he said. I had a conversation with him before I walked around, and I've knocked on doors with him for 3-4 days in the summer, trying to get him some votes in Lowell. So when you say, am I a Republican or a Democrat, I am the epitome of an unenrolled, independent voter out there. And as I'm walking around, going into shops and breakfast places and out in the street just saying hi to people in the grocery stores, all the places where you would think that people would congregate, and they are the same down the line. And we were talking earlier, it's not the same as it was before. And when you were unenrolled before, you were out there, you didn't know we couldn't pick a party, you didn't know what you were doing, you know. Now people are independent, unenrolled, because they've had it with Republicans and Democrats, and I'm going to bring a little bit of both people. And if you want, you can see my desk. I have a Christmas card from Lori Trahan and one from the White House. So I'm on both sides. I'll be the bridge. I'm the one that brings people to the table.
All right, let's talk about that, because that's a relevant factor in this race. And we're going to delve into some of the issues and find out how a state senator, Joe Espinola, would vote on Beacon Hill. First, let me thank my Daily Pulse sponsor, Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Mass and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, get in touch with Ray Booten today. And the good news is you can find him easily enough online at realestaterayBooten.com. That's realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint for hosting us here in the WellPoint studios. It's the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. We thank WellPoint. We thank Ray. We've got all of our podcast sponsors that I'm going to get to in just a couple of minutes, but let's get right down to it. Joe, you said that...
I didn't tell you who I was.
That's well, you tried to jump the gun, but I have a format.
There you go. Yeah. So this might be the only one that will have part 2. You'll get it on Netflix.
There you go. So the question I ask with every challenger in a race, because incumbents have a certain advantage. They're there. They're interviewed all the time. They discuss issues. They vote on them. Whatever. They have a record. So I always give people who enter the race as challengers an opportunity to introduce themselves. And you said that, former Mayor Samaras and I know you, but for folks out there in our audience who don't know you, who are you and why are you running for this seat?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks again for having me in here. It's a beautiful place. Really an honor to be here next to Mayor, Commissioner,
whatever.
We call him your worship.
Senor, yeah.
That's what the Canadians
We've changed.
Yeah. So I go far back enough to work with Mr. Samaras as the housemaster over there with Eddie Davis, who was our chief. We did a lot of start of state-of-the-art things with the schools, and we'll get into that a little later. But my name is Joe Espinola. I'm a retired police officer out of the city of Lowell. I was retired as a result of a culmination of injuries that happened over a series of events that I received some awards, including the Medal of Valor, and it is something that was very dear to me. I loved every second that I had my uniform on. It gives me chills every time I talk about it. It meant a lot to me when I lost my job. It was pretty much I lost my identity. I was born in Back Central Street, the product of immigrants from Ireland and Portugal. My dad was a firefighter, and he took a job from a factory, worked at the GE factory, and he took a very large pay cut to become a firefighter back in 1965. That was the year I was born. And he bought a house in Back Central Street, which is predominantly a Portuguese neighborhood. My mom, being Irish, didn't want to move to that neighborhood, and she was in Dragut. So they found a house, and they found a house on Back Central Street on Cedar Street. And the house had green shamrocks on the shutters. And my mom said, we'll move here and we'll buy this house, and those shutters and those shamrocks will stay on there until we leave. And they had the house sided, and those shamrocks are still there. And that's how we moved to Back Central Street. So I lived there till I was about 22. And then I bought a small cottage in Tingsboro. And me and a bunch of my friends, we tore it down by hand, and we built a new house, being for a product of Greater Lowell. We got together and we built a new house. So I lived there for about 7 years. I became a Lowell police officer after working at the House of Correction for a number of years while I was going to school. And then I had to move to the city of Lowell. So I moved the city of Lowell up to the Highlands. I went to the Highlands. That's where I met my wife. We fell in love, got married, and that's where I started my family. And while I was doing all this full time, I was playing baseball for the college, and I also was getting my degrees. I have an associate's and 2 undergrads and a master's, and I also am in school right now to get my mental health master's in therapy, so I can help people like that. So I'm now in Dracut. We moved there. We started our family in Dracut, and I've been in Dracut for 23 years now, and I've been involved in community events. I've been a coach. I've been volunteers. Everybody in Dragut knows me from just being around and being part of giving back to the community. I also was a member of Greater Lowell Tech School Committee, which is very, very important to me because I graduated from there in 1983. And Teddy, you and I faced off on some courts over those years. You're the same year. So it meant a lot to me. So I was on that board. And as a result of me running for Senate in 2018, I did what I thought was the right decision. I gave up my position at Greater Lowell, which I thought was the right thing to do to make sure that I was going to concentrate and make all my efforts on the seat that I was running for. So now I'm out here. They changed the seat after I ran in Lawrence. They put Dragut in with Lowell. So I'm born in Lowell. I worked in Lowell as a police officer for 20 years. I live in Dragut now. And the question comes up all the time, how are you going to balance the city with the towns? Well, every night I go back to the towns and I go to sleep. So balancing the towns is natural for me. I've represented 4 out of the 5, Groton, Lowell, Dragut, and Tingsboro at Greater Lowell. At the time, it was at-large seat, so you represented everybody. So I know a bunch of people out there. I am familiar with the towns. I am familiar with the cities. I believe that I bring the best perspective and the new ideas to this district to bring it forward and to bring the ideologies that Senator Kennedy have, plus some, to the district seat.
Okay, you're running as unenrolled. You got the signatures. You're going to be on the ballot March 3rd as an unenrolled candidate against whoever emerges from the Democratic primary, and if Sam Mears is successful in getting his write-ins.
So currently, I'm the only one on the ballot in the general election.
You're the only one guaranteed. Folk, you ran as a Republican in 2018.
Yes.
Folks said he's a Republican. Why is he running unenrolled? Apparently, these folks who think they know, a lot of things, don't understand that the election calendar, the way it was set up, does not allow you to run as a Republican because you were unenrolled at the time of Senator Kennedy's passing, and the calendar kind of goes backwards from there. Would you run as a Republican if you had that opportunity, or would you stay as unenrolled?
No, if I had a chance, many people who I hold their opinions to my heart, and I highly value their opinions. After I ran in 2018, we have this conversation when we speak to people like the Registry of Deeds, right? You run in a certain party, but you're in a state where it's not feasible to ideology-wise to run as one party. So I made the announcement already on WCAP on my last show that I was there, that if I had a chance to pick, I would have ran as a Democrat. And I would have been a Fetterman Democrat. And if I run as a Republican, I would be a Rand Paul Republican. I'm going to represent both sides of the aisle. I'm kind of liking it where I am right now, so I don't know. I've made those decisions, but I don't know if I would just say, I'm going to go through. Because think about this. 70% of the district is unenrolled independent people right now. So you're at a table, there's 10 people at the table, which this actually happened to me. There's 10 people at a table. You get 6 people that are unenrolled, 2 people that are Democrats, and 2 people that are Republicans, or 2.5 to 1.5, whatever you want to do.
Probably 3 Democrats and 1 Republican.
Yeah, probably
more than likely.
Probably 3 and 1. But think about it as fishing, right? You have 1 worm. You want to put it in the bucket where there's 70% of the voters, or do you want 20% of the voters or 7% of the voters? Where you're going to put that 1 worm? You're going to put that worm in the bucket where the 70% of the fish are. And I'm getting a good feeling about it. And I'm getting a lot of people saying, you're not one of those parties, one of those parties like Republican and Democrat. So I'm starting to find a nice warm little feeling being unenrolled independent. So much so is that why are 70% of the district disenfranchised when it comes to, we have no say in who gets elected to go to be the governor candidate for the Republicans. We don't get a chance to see who gets to be the governor's candidate for the Democrats. And there's 70% of the district. That's just like what they did to Joe Biden. That millions of people voted for him. They said, well, we're done with you now. Go to your corner. We're going to go with Kamala. 70% of this district is going to be unrepresented when we move forward. So maybe we should organize and have them beg us to pick who we want to go with. So there's a lot of talks about that. But I think the way that they run the system, I couldn't get in either party because of the dates, right? And after I announced, you had come out with that, people like these Republicans can't get their things together. No, they come out with the rules, and some of the deadlines were before Ed Kennedy passed away. Correct. So my thing is, you have special rules. It's a special election, special rules. Why not have all rules? Change all the rules for the special election. Why not just some that make it beneficial for you? And my ideology says that if they get 70% of the people to pick one guy and go into run in one of the races as a Democrat or Republican, we're in trouble. So they get their small 20,000 people to have them to run against.
Right, but to be clear, you would have run, if you had a chance to pick a party, if the calendar worked that way, you would have chosen to run as a Democrat.
In the onset, I would have chosen to run as a Democrat.
Okay.
Yeah.
The thing is, both parties, though, seem to be run or ruled by the extremists in their party. And what you're talking about, there's like 60% unenrolled. Some of us would call the people in the middle centrists, the people who are not heard, or what. There's all kinds of terminology that's been thrown at that group. The thing is, I think you're accurate when you say that group exists. But how do you get to that group? I mean, do you really feel you can reach out because people haven't been successful at that? Or is it because it's extreme, people in the extreme left or right going after that group, and you're someone coming down the middle and trying to show that you have certain areas where the Democratic thought is proper or the Republican thought is proper? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you break this? Because people talk about it. I think it's a reality, but how do you break it?
Well, as I said earlier, Mr. Samaras, I appreciate that question because that is very important. And as I go out there and I get this warm feeling, it's not. I've been in politics a long time. I've knocked on doors for a lot of people. I've only ran once, and I'm 1-1. I've won for the vote, and I've lost for the Senate. But I didn't do too bad for the Senate, seeing that I raised a significantly less portion of money than my opponent did. But when you have it right now, as you go out there to the parties, there's a 70% chance that I'm going to knock on the door, and that person is going to be just like me. So when you open up, when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, you're looking in the mirror, you want someone to represent you at the State House as a senator. You look in the mirror, that's me. I'm you. I'm the same. I think the same as you. I am a union man. I've been a union my whole life. I've never had an adult job that I was not in a union. My dad was a firefighter. He was in a union his whole life. He was he was a Democrat. He was in a union when he was at General Electric. I was brought up union. I was on union boards. I was in unions. I started a union that didn't endorse me in the last one. I signed cards. I've sat on picket lines. I've done all those things. Those people that like that are still out there. The crazy ones for the left and the right, they're ones that are making all the noise. Those are the ones you only hear. But the people like me, they're quietly sitting in the back. And because it's so crazy out there, you can't help but notice what's going on. The noise is waking these people up. And I'm giving them a chance to say, hey, look we've had it. We're tired of the extreme left and extreme right. We're generous people. We're hard workers. We don't mind helping our neighbors. We don't want to get ripped off. We want people to look after our money. We want people to make good decisions about our money. So you're right. It is going to be a task, and it has been a delight task so far because people think just like me. And that's why I say it. It's like coming home when you're knocking on doors. People really are looking for it. So I got to let them know that someone like them is running, and I'll be the one to represent them moving forward.
All right. I think Mr. Samaras' question was a great one, and because while the sheer number of independent unenrolled voters can swing elections, and we see it happen at the top of the ticket, right? When the governor's races, Republicans are able to overcome that Democratic supermajority. But as you get down the ticket, and even in the statewide offices, auditor, treasurer, attorney general, state senate, state rep, it becomes much more difficult. You get, even if people are voting for governor, they're not voting down that ticket, or if they are down the ticket, they're sticking to their party, be it Democrat or be it Republican. What's your path to victory? How do you plan to approach that to make sure that enough unenrolled people come out and take what you've all said into account, but also that they show up on a March 3rd, which is an unusual time of year for an election? Everyone's expecting a low turnout election compared to what would happen on the first Tuesday in November. What's your approach? What's your pitch to them?
Historically, special elections are generally low elections. They're usually the presidential elections, which is the one that's coming up, the midterms. Those are the ones that do right. I'm getting out there, just knocking on doors, social media, getting people to let people know that I'm out there. People like them, like-minded like them. And this is what I like to say, kiddingly, but not really kiddingly. Every time one of the candidates that are running in the preliminary right now get out in public, they campaign for me. They say, what's wrong? You had both candidates on your show the other day. It was a good what show. It was like a review of the tests that you're going to have in your midterm. They told us everything that was wrong. They told us that the MBTA was subpar, but they want us to build in Drake 2,500 units that is potentially bankrupting the community if it does. Things like they pointed out everything that's wrong. So as they go around and they campaign for themselves, they're campaigning for me because they're telling people, hey, here it is. And every time you get your utility bill in the mail, every time you get a bill in the mail, think of that. Look at that flyer and say, Joe Espinola, vote for Joe, because that is what they're sending. You get that bill in the mail, that is 57% of that bill is all pork for the green energy. Do we have to do it all at once? And everybody, who doesn't want green energy? I don't want the planet to kill. Teddy, back when we started college, right, it was DDT, right? I think in our lifetime, the planet should have blown up 4 or 5 times by now. And it doesn't happen. So what do? To damn the taxpayers, we going to try to keep moving the goal line and getting it go like that? So I got to get out there and I got to say, look here's what you have. this is what you have. You know what you have. They vote this way, 100% with the leadership. You know what you have. That's it. If you think it's going to change, then you can compare them to me. But you already know what you have when you look at the two Democratic people that are running for each other. Like I said, it was like going to the ice cream stand watching your show, and do you want soft serve vanilla or old fashioned vanilla? They both have the same ideologies. They fought over the mileage thing. But let's look at the mileage thing too. The mileage thing has come out of committee. It's going to go to a vote based upon statistics, historical statistics, right? If you are a betting person, right? Given the fact that both of them vote 100% with the leadership, that comes out of committee, I would say that Rodney Elliott didn't get enough time to vote yes for that thing, because it's coming out, and as their records show, they vote 100% with the leadership. And we had talked, I heard somebody on your show say something about how bad it was for somebody to be out in the towns with Jamie Eldridge, the senator, because he's far left. He's never going to do anything. Well, I did some looking. The fiscal conservative, Mass Fiscal Conservative, according to that website, Jamie Eldridge has a better score than both of the Democratic senators that are candidates running for senator right now. Jamie Eldridge has a better fiscal score than both Democratic candidates in this race. So having Jamie Eldridge in it might not be a bad idea compared to the other numbers that are going on there. So I think that maybe they should just take some idea of what's going on and look at the climate. People are mad right now. You hear, all I hear them is, so I'm out there listening. I'm going to do something. They have power right now. The Democratic people that are on the ticket, that are running in the preliminary, right? They have the power. They're on House Ways and Means. They have the purse. They can fix this. They can fix this right now. Where have they been? 2 terms for Rodney and 3 terms for Vanna. Where have they been? Why haven't they done anything right now? Does it take an election? And after the election, are they going to go back into hibernate mode, or are they going to really fight for the district? But we already know that their votes show that they don't. So I'm giving you a fresh voice. I'll be the ones that will bring new ideas, fresh ideas, and I'll be, as one of the candidates say, I'll be the fiscal watchdog in the community. And we all know that the state runs better with a Republican and the Democrat electorate. So won't our district with a conservative senator with Democratic leadership, the delegation.
All right. You touched on a number of issues there. I was going to ask you, what are the central issues in your campaign? By that last answer, it certainly sounds like the MBTA Communities Act is one of the important ones. Absolutely. The Mileage Act or whatever. Let's talk about the MBTA communities first. How do you fix that? We have a need for more housing, is what we're told. How do you build more housing without sticking it all in cities like Lowell, so that the smaller suburbs, like the ones you represent, be it Drake, Tingsboro, whatever, don't necessarily have to take on the additional housing? How is that fair to the people in Lowell that you would represent, as opposed to the people in Drake, Tingsboro, Pepperell, Dunstable?
Well, first of all, it has to start with a conversation, Teddy. You don't just say, hey, we're going to shove this down your throat. And if you don't, we're going to start taking money from you. This is how that works, Teddy. I give you $20, right? After you're done spending what you need, right? You're going to give what's left back to me, but you're going to set the rules. You have to do this, Joe, before I give you the rest of the money. Well, I gave you the money. I let you borrow $20. What are you putting rules on it for me? But you're going to put the rules. That's how the state is acting right now. But the state doesn't like to be told what to do, because we see all the lawsuits going on with the administration. So you have the administration suing the government administration left and right because they don't like to be told what to do. And then on the other hand, they turn around and they force the cities and towns to do what they do. And it should be known that amendment was put forward to ask for an extension. And we needed an extension because we are working on a plan out there. We are not defying this. Although we do not like having it shoved down our throat, right? We are working on something that is amicable for the whole district as a whole, because we're going to have to pay for it. And one of the things that we're asking is, how much is this going to cost us in public safety, in infrastructure, in schools, right? We're going to have to build more schools? What are we going to have to do? Is the state going to be there with some of the Disney dollars that they have found all of a sudden for the housing crisis for migrants, the emergency shelters, right? There's $1,000 million every year that goes to these emergent shelters. And I say 1,000 millions because people have lost fact of the B's now. You don't have to say what a B because everybody thinks it's the same, the B and the M. It's 1,000 millions is in a billion, right? That's what they spend every year in emergency shelter. Lowell's fighting over $2 million for their education last year, right? And that's what they can't get that money. You couldn't give them $2 million out of those 1,000 millions that you gave to the emergency shelter. So getting back to the MBTA, we're working on a plan. And all I keep hearing is that, well, we need to work this out. Someone from the government is going to, someone from the state's going to come. They're going to talk to you. Where are they? Maybe they'll have I've heard a transportation hub like Lowell has, the Gallagher terminal. Well, wouldn't that come first when you say, hey, look, here's the plan. We're going to do this for you. This is what we want you to do. Whatever. You build these X amount of houses and we will support your infrastructure. We will support your education. We will support all that stuff. But no, they force the mandates on us and then they decide later on that we have to pay for it. And we're broke. We have no money because we don't get many money for the city because they don't expand their Chapter 70 money because the state feels we're okay doing it by ourselves. Now, I know I'm on a tangent here, but the MBTA is very, very big for Drake. There was a motion to give us an extension, and both of the candidates in the Democratic election in the primary voted against giving us an extension. So that's one of the things that Drake saw of, and there's a few others as well.
Well, you actually bring up a pretty good point because the thing is, the state does come in with an either or. I mean, we've passed this legislation. Now, if you don't abide by this type of legislation, we're going to withhold funds. So it's not. There's no carrots out there. The stick is out there. It's predominant. Yeah.
And so one of the candidates.
Do you feel it? I mean, the thing is, but the Speaker of the House is in line with whatever the state has come out with. I mean, it's his or her mandate, so to speak. But if you go against the Speaker or you go against the President of the Senate, your power in that particular, whether it's the Senate or the House, is minimized. Yeah. I mean, how do you survive in that? How can you survive in that environment?
Well, I know a lot of people up there. They're not all crazy. Yeah. And you can tell by the votes. You can tell by what's going on with the climate. I can tell by who's calling me, asking me to join their party, calling me to help me out, giving me certain information that's going on. And up in the State House, not everybody up there is crazy, but they play the game. Yeah. They put up. Let me just say this: 200. You have everybody votes for the MBTA to go in, right? And my people don't want it, I vote no, right? So there's 99-1, right? At least I show my people that I voted for them, what they represent, okay? The Speaker has to take into a fact that, my people don't want it. They don't want that vote. I had to vote no. My people don't want it. But that's not what happens. You make an amendment, it doesn't go your way, but then you vote on top of it. And I don't think that's it. So if there are 60% unenrolled people in the communities out there in the state, right? I think it's like 64 right now, and it's growing. And if I have anything to do with it, it'll grow more after I win. And if I have that many people that are in the middle, how many elected officials have the same situation that is facing this district right now, where the seat is held by 70% of unenrolled district people? So we can go out after those people and say, hey, look, we gotta get these guys, we gotta get them mobilized, all the unenrolled independent people mobilized to help the people who are not, and I don't want to say let's not be shaking the trees, but let's start talking to the Speaker and say, hey, look, my district, Drake and Lowell, we don't like that. We don't like this MBTA. And it's self-described subpar MBTA going through our neighborhoods, and we're going to X amount of housing. They bankrupt the community, but we're still going to do it. We still want time to come up with a plan, but they won't let us. And it's like the same thing that I've said about everything. They take our niceness, the state of Massachusetts, the legislators, the elected officials, they take our niceness. We are giving people. We are giving humans. These people, you're involved in a lot of nonprofits. We are human, given human people. They're taking our nice list and they're shoving it down our throats. Do we want homeless people? No. Do we want homeless people that come from the other countries? No. Do we want our schools to suffer? Do we want our janitors to lose their jobs? No. But we have no money. We're looking at our electric bill. Do we want green energy? Yes. I can't pay all that. My medicine, my food, the whole country is like that now. So we get this district. We have people that can do it right now and haven't done it. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to shake the trees, and I'm going to get as many people that will listen to me. And I know I'm a bridge builder. I'm going to talk to the people on both sides of the aisle, whether I'm a Democrat or Republican down there. I will be having coffee with everybody, and we're going to have conversations, because if 67 or 64% of the state is unenrolled independent, so there's a slew of people coming up. So other people that are elected officials right now got to be having a problem with their district right now, and are thinking about, hey, look at Joe. He's starting to shake the trees about unenrolled and independent people. We should probably listen to what he's got to say.
All right. We're chatting with Joe Espinola, candidate for the 1st Middlesex State Senate seat, formerly held by Ed Kennedy. He will be on the ballot as an unenrolled candidate on the March 3rd general election, the special general election. We're going to continue our discussion in a quick second here, also joined by former Lowell Mayor Bill Samaras. But first, let me thank all of my sponsors here at Inside Lowell, my podcast sponsors. Of course, we start with the Daily Pulse sponsor, Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Mass and New Hampshire. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to WellPoint at WellPoint. Your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that goes the extra mile, and they don't even get taxed on it. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, TMI Cares, managing and developing their own properties for 30 years, over 30 years. Experience the quality, the care, and the value of making TMI the choice for your home. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to generations of families throughout Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925, and by the Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in our communities through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Thank you to all of them. Thanks to former Mayor Samaras. Thank you to Joe Espinola for stepping on in here. I asked this question during the debate between the two Democratic candidates the other day, cited all the different new tax revenues we have here in Massachusetts. In 2015, we opened our first casino. We also opened our first medicinal marijuana facility in 2015. In 2018, we opened our first recreational cannabis facility. And since that time, we've only expanded all of it. Lottery, you can now gamble on your cell phone and bet on anything under the sun. We got a millionaire's tax. All this new revenue that's coming in, the state budget has exploded. What is it,
63 million.
63 billion. 63 billion. So 63 thousands of millions.
63,000 millions.
Okay. Why are we told that the next state budget is going to be very tight, and that cities and towns, in particular places like Drayton and Tingsboro, Dunstable and Pepperell, might face a reduction or not get the increases that they need to keep up with their rising costs in local aid? Where'd all the money go? Has it been spent wisely,
well,
Joe?
I think one of the candidates answered it yesterday. We spend. That's what they said. We spend. And they spend, they do. And there has been an influx. It is the highest revenues that have come into the state of Massachusetts ever. The highest revenues, okay? The lowest amount of Chapter 70 funds go back to the state. The number of funds that go back to the state is not even keeping up with inflation, or it's gone down 5% in the last 5 years of it. So if they're not keeping up with inflation, right, which was Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter, it was around 8-9% for the last few years. And that's a lot of you. You're a businessman. You know that affects people. If you're not keeping up with that and you're level funding it, then that cuts positions. And positions start to get the people in the communities, when you're cutting this position over that position, it makes some emotional things. And you have an audit, right? We could tell where all that money's going, but they won't have the audit because they know that it'll be Minnesota-ish. And we'll end up with finding out where that money is actually going. And let's face it, there's been some And I've had beers with people that have gone to jail that have been up in the State House in Lowell. There's been people that have done some bad things that have gone to jail for things that they did up in the State House. This isn't anything about that. We don't want anybody to go to jail. I'm sure the people in Massachusetts. But what has happened? No one's accusing them of anything that is undermining and criminal. They're spending money in places that they shouldn't be spending it and taking money from one place to put it elsewhere, like the millionaire's tax. The millionaire's tax was supposed to be an additional tax. It was supposed to give us shiny balls and new things and nice things, like one of the candidates said in the council election, to give us nice things, right? And we take that, they substitute the money. So if they're giving $50 million to the city of Lowell, they pull back that $50 million, throw it into the general fund, and then they take the $50 million from the millionaire's tax, give it there, so no one notices that's missing. They still get the money, and the money's coming from the millionaire's tax, but no one saw them take the $50 million out of there to start with. So if you take the millionaire's tax, right, I think it was $200 million this year, right, and you spread it out amongst the communities, we don't have the 53 overrides that are going on in the cities and towns right now. So where are they spending the money? 1,000 millions every single year for emergency shelters. Okay. We take those emergency shelter contracts, right? You take them out of emergency shelter status, which means they go out to bid, okay? There's 10% right off the top, right? There is $100 million that you can take, $2 million, give it to those 53 communities that are going for an override to give them some relief. That's just off the top right there, right? Just for saying, okay, we're going to go out and do bids for 3 years. It's been an emergency for 3 years. Why aren't we going out to bid for those things? And why isn't anybody saying anything about it? Well, the auditor can't get to the books, and she can't find out. She audited the shelter system and found all kinds of improprieties going on there. So, and just give it, for instance, of what's going on with the shelter system. They have Ubers, and they have cab rides, and they have all kinds of paid transportation for these emergency shelters, right? How much does it cost to take the bus or around town in Lowell? How much does it cost for that? Do you know how much it costs to take the bus in Lowell?
No. It's free, isn't it?
It's free. It's free. Why are they getting Ubers and taxis? Go right outside like everybody else and shag the bus. So how much money are we wasting on that? So audits really help. Any business you've ever been in, you have an audit, and it take 10% right off the top. So there's 660 millions comes back to the cities and towns.
You're preaching to the choir. They also,
Absolutely.
The other thing they do at the Inn and Conference Center, they had a kitchen staff. They served, Aramark served 3 meals a day, but they gave them food money. They gave them SNAP benefits. Yeah. It's like, well, can we cut one of them out for the taxpayers?
And they laundered their clothes.
And laundered their clothes. All right. Since we're talking about migrants and immigration, Lowell City Hall last night had a big protest, interrupted the city council meeting. Protesters demanding to know what police and law enforcement are doing. Are they cooperating with federal immigration enforcement officers, etc.? Somebody, I forget her name, a state legislator here in Massachusetts, just filed a bill saying to make the arresting anybody at a courthouse on the way to court or whatever is against the law in Massachusetts, ostensibly to not have ICE agents arresting people in court, or as they're being transported to court, or people who may be a party to, I think the wording was a party to, or a witness to any kind of a court case. Other states are saying we're not allowing ICE officials anywhere in our courts and whatever, we're not arresting. Should Massachusetts, will you vote in Massachusetts for a bill like that to limit ICE's ability to do their law enforcement in the Commonwealth? And would you limit state police and local police departments would you ban them from cooperating with ICE agents in any way, shape, or form?
Well, Ted, it just goes back to everything. Let's over-legislate. Let's add some more of this. It goes back to texting while driving. We have a distracted driving law. Why did we have to have a texting law? Right? It made people feel good, so they made a texting law. This right now, if they let the law enforcement go to the communities, inside the courtrooms and the police departments, we would not have any of this stuff. I've lived through it. I've lived through the Deporter-in-Chief, Obama, through law enforcement, where there was no one. Over the largest number of immigrants that got deported was under Obama. At the time, that we would work with the law enforcement, federal law enforcement. They would come into the courthouses. These are criminals. These aren't people that crossed over the line and they have civil detentions. They have detainers. These are people who have criminal warrants for their arrest. Now, the people with the civil detentions, right? Those civil detentions, they've been heard. They've had their day in court. They have been in front of the judge. The judge has said that you are no longer able to seek shelter in the United States. You have to go home. They let them go, and those people just carry on with their lives and whatever. That is a civil offense, right? And mind you this, too, I'd like to remind everybody that unless you jumped over a fence or went through one of those holes in the wall to get here and crossed over the Rio Grande to get to the United States, and you didn't tell anybody you were here, unless you did it the other way, like through the app, the CBP app. If you did it that way, if you checked in at a border, right, you are not here illegally. You are here legally. It's the people who crawled through the fence and didn't check in who probably wouldn't have got through the checkpoints for the immigration system. So when you think about this, and when we think about criminals, and like there are some horrendous people that they're taking off the street, like child molesters and rapists and murderers that have come from other countries that have not checked in anywhere. We have no idea where they are. They could be sitting next to you, and in some cases, we found them inside the court, the shelters, the migrant shelters. So I would not file any legislation. I would let the law enforcement do their jobs. If I'm not correct in saying this, I think it's been 2 times now, but at least once. Superintendent Houdon has made the superintendent has made the position of the city of Lowell and its police department perfectly known in a statement, and they're not cooperating with ICE and whatever. So I don't know why they're shaking the trees again about it, because you don't have people getting arrested in the streets that aren't criminals. So and if they don't have to go into the streets and the neighborhoods and make it more dangerous, then you won't have the ancillary, the residual arrests where the people are just there 15 years. But they've been working here. They have taxes. They pay their tax. They have a job. They have their kids they've raised. They're in the school systems, right? Brings me to another point. What is going on with our legislators? Why don't they make a rule? Why don't they make a law that says, why does it take so long for people to become citizens? If you're here 15 years, what's taking so long? Why does it take so long? Why aren't the government? Why isn't the legislators? Why isn't Congresswoman Trahan doing something about speeding up the immigration process so that we don't have to have these problems? It's because they don't want to do it because they don't have nothing to campaign on. It's not going to be anything, no fighting in the streets or whatever. The problems are there. Let's just figure them out. Sit down at the table, be big boys, play in the sandbox, and get things done.
The thing is, the immigration process, you're correct, has been broken forever.
Yeah.
I mean, from when I first went into education and we had adult education, we could see that if you brought in somebody to talk about obtaining their citizenship, no one would show up that night because there was always a fear their green card had expired or something like that. But during Obama's time, even the media has gone back to say, during Obama's time, there was even more done, what have you. How do we get back? I mean, is it possible what did Obama do? Do you have any idea, as former policeman, what have you, what happened during his administration that made it work, the process work?
He let law enforcement into the courthouses and the jails to get the criminals. That's where they are. Like we were talking about earlier, you want votes, go to where the voters are, in the independent barrel. You want the criminals, they're at the courthouse. They are. You don't have to let them back out. You don't have to let these people out that have committed heinous crimes on bail and have them walk into our communities. We're putting our children and our other families unsafe.
You asked why are we having this motion again in Lowell when it's already been addressed what the immigration policy is, and I doubt that it's changed. The answer is fear. Because there are people out there in the community who are fearful. We're hearing the story. Councilor Vezanoon mentioned an anecdote, but Councilor Kim Scott said also these discussions are creating fear. So So reasonable or not, the fear is real. There are people who, if you are elected, there are people you will represent in Lowell and probably in Drake at Tingsboro and Dunstable and Pepperell too, who have a fear of being snatched up off the street. Whoever's to blame for creating that fear, whether it's legitimate or not. How would you address those folks? How would you address those fear? Because you will represent those people in some way, shape, or form if you're elected, Joe.
I would go direct to the source, just like I did when I was a police officer when we did community service. I was part of the first community service team that Eddie Davis I had the community. We had the van, the new neighborhood groups. I was part of that group that went to all the neighborhood meetings. I was known as the fireman. I would put out the fires between the neighborhoods. I not famously, but I was able to get both parties, along with my partner, Chris Finner. We would get to both parties, the neighborhood and Berry Road. You remember the fights at Berry Road when they wanted to put that resident? Yeah. We were able to get to the table. They sent us away. They locked us in a room, kind of like this rubber room. And they put us in there, and they said, look at what's going on? What's the problem? Eddie Davis sent us away. He said, look at, work this out. We need to get this done for both sides to be happy. Let's get this done. I would go into the communities. I would go to the immigrant communities. I would go to the church groups. I would go to the leaders of the communities and say, look it, this is not the way it is. You know it's not the way it is. We need you to speak to your immigrant population. Let's sit down and discuss how do we take that fear away from them. And more importantly, Teddy, not only do we take the fear out of them, what are we going to do for them so that they don't have to live in uneasiness and unrest, thinking that they're going to get swept off the ground when they're just going to get their groceries or whatever like that? Why don't we have, instead of a sanctuary state, why don't we have sanctuary residents where you get a point system? You've been here for X amount of years. You're not committing crimes. You have a job. You're not on public assistance, right? Okay, here you are, and you're on this list. And then when the federal government that we now are cooperating with, they come into town and they say, hey, is Teddy or Joe Espinola on the list? No. Oh, Joe Espinola's on the list. Yep, he's okay. He's a taxpaying citizen. He's got a green card status, and we're waiting for his paperwork for his citizenship. Now, it costs a lot of money to become a citizen. It costs a ton of money. We can't even afford public defenders for our citizens, but we can afford attorneys for non-residents of the country. So what is going on? Like, do we represent other people's residents in other countries just like they would if you got arrested over there in Venezuela? Or do we take care of our own residents? Not take the crime out of it. There are residents. There are citizens. You're not paying the public defenders to defend them, and they're walking out in the street, more dangerous criminals into the community. So I would start with the leaders of the community, just like we did when I was on the community response team. You start with the leaders of the community because the people in the community trust them. And the bad people in the community trust those people because we all sit down together, and that's where we all get our information. That's where all we get our things, how we can put things together. You go to the source. How can we do this? How can we relieve the fear and get you to live without fear moving forward? And I don't see anybody doing that in any part of the legislation right now.
Well, the thing is, Eddie Davis was a master at establishing communication, and you talked about receiving training. I mean, do you think it's possible as somebody in the legislation that you could come and seek the help of someone like, we'll say, Ted in the podcast, the loose newspaper? In other words, we're against each other. Everybody's looking for what and how to deal with the situation. No one's talking about coming together to deal with the situation. But the leadership has to come from the political forces.
Mr. Samaras, there are a lot of Joe Espinolas out there. There are a lot of them. I grew up with them. I grew up in Back Central Street. I grew up in a migrant neighborhood. I played in the Bishop Markham. All right, I forget what they call it now. I scraped my knees and bled on the South Common field. When I go over there, my skin crawls to see what's going on there. And I have family that work at that school. I went to that school for 8 years. I went to that school. It just breaks my heart what's going on there right now. There are many many Joe Espinolas out there, but they're afraid to speak out because there are more podcasters. There are more people that'll say bad things about them. But if we all get together and we all sit in the same room and we go, force is in numbers. And if we get together, we can do this. We can get it. But no one wants to touch that stuff. You don't hear the candidates talking about the homelessness and the drugs and what goes on in the South Common. You have one of the candidates grew up in Back Central. Another candidate is on the board at the Housing Authority, and he's saying we're begging the city of Lowell to put a precinct there. Well, you have the purse strings at the state. Get some money from the state. Some of those 1,000 millions, right? Get some of that money to come back. Just a little, not all of it, right? Say like 10, 20% of the 1,000 millions, right? There's $200 million discretionary funds to give out through the community. You take the shelter, you dump it in Lowell, and you have all those kids going into a school. Has anybody thought about the trauma that these kids have been through? If they're on someone's backpack, going across the desert for that trek all the way here, they come here, they clean them up, they put them in a school, in a classroom, no one speaks the language, no one looks like them, or some they do look like them. What about these kids? The mental health that's going to happen to these kids growing up. We're far from addressing the problems that are getting going forward. And I heard some mental health things yesterday. I heard some mental health things today. Where's the mental health? Because I had Jim Durkin from AFSCME on my radio show talking about closing mental health institutions where there aren't many left. Where's the mental health issues that they're dealing with now? I don't think they're paying attention. And I think we could get enough people together, especially if I'm elected, because I'm on both sides of the aisle. I've been on the side of the river. I've pulled people off the side of the river. I've spent nights in that shelter. How many candidates you think have spent a night in that shelter? I've spent dozens of nights in that shelter as a police officer. The people do not want to go there. I have been in the addiction place. I've been in Project Compass. I helped start with Kathy Kelly, Alternative House, right? I was part of Megan's house, right? I was all part of the beginnings of that stuff, getting it together, the neighborhood groups, all this stuff. It all starts with an idea. It all starts with a conversation. Let's sit down and talk about it. Let's sit down with people about the MBTA. Let's sit down with the audit. Why can't we sit down with the speaker and say, okay, let's give them something? They said they want an audit. And before I forget, 80% of the people say that the criminals that are illegal aliens should be locked up at the courthouses and the police stations. 80% of the voting public or the people that have asked. That's a lot. So why can't we get together and talk it over with the speaker? Let's do something. Sit down with the auditor, and we're going to have an audit. Something. Compromise. Let's get it set. Let's do Tip O'Neill, and let's get things all squared away and give the people something. Instead of just saying, what do they know? 72%, they voted for it. I don't know. If 72% of the people told you who was going to win the Super Bowl game, right, I'd take that in a second. So why can't we sit down and say, okay, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're gonna give them an audit, some kind of an audit. So Teddy, right now it's the state coming to you, down to the restaurant, the Athenian Corner, right? And they're gonna say, we're gonna audit you, and you say to them, I'm all set, thank you. I got my own audit. But I'll mail it to you. Don't worry. And they send you another letter, right? And they say, look, we need you to have an audit. I said, okay. I'll give you an audit, but these are the 3 auditors that I want to use. You pick one of those 3. You pick the audit. Let's come down the middle. Let's come to a compromise. Let's come to a compromise with MBTA. Let's come to a compromise with the audit. Let's come to a compromise with this green stuff. Let's come to a compromise. Let's stop choking people. There's got to be a way we can all do this without making people pay through their pocket and have to suffer.
All right, we're going to cut it off there. Lots of ground covered. If folks are interested in what they're hearing and they want to learn more, or if they want to just jeer you and harass you, how do they find you? Social media, website? Give them the info.
There you go. Joe Espinola, I'm running as unenrolled independent candidate for State Senate 1st Middlesex District. It's Lowell, Dracut, Tingsboro, Dunstable, and Pepperell. I've represented 4 out of the 5 on the Greater Lowell School Committee. I've lived in 3 out of 4 of the districts. I've worked in one. I've volunteered in just about all of them. I have friends and relatives that live in all the districts. Will you vote for me? I become your senator. You don't lose the very powerful representatives that you have in the representative seats right now. They're both on housing, Ways and Means. They have the means to do it now. They can take it now. Let's see leave them there. Vote for me. You're adding me to the team. Another eyes, watch them, and we'll get better things done.
All right. Joe Espinola, candidate
Joe.
for 1st Middlesex State Senate. Thank
Vote.
you for joining us today. Good luck out there. You get to relax on February 3rd.
I do.
March 3rd is when it happens. Hopefully we can have you back here for a debate with whoever else is on the ballot, and we can get more into some of these issues.
Don't forget, vote for Joe. Joe, the number 4, change.com.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
to Joe Espinola. Thank you to former Lowell Mayor Bill Samaras. There you go. You've now heard from all 4 of the candidates vying to be on that ballot in February and or March. The choice is yours. Get on out there and vote. I think there's still time for you to get on out there and register. If you plan on voting by mail, you better hurry up. We're now less than 2 weeks from the election, and you know the mail service. You don't want to be dependent on that. Of course, Election Day, February 3rd and March 3rd. Also, tune in on election night, February 3rd. We're going to have live coverage of the Senate primary on the Democratic side, and also trying to track whether Sam Meese is able to get on the ballot, get enough stickers and write-ins to be on the Republican ballot. We're going to go on the air at 7:30 p.m. and stay with you until the results are known. We're going to have Jerry Nutter, Marty Laurie, Erin Gendron, Jim Leary, and Asa Stutz too. I almost forgot Asa Stutz. Who knows what other surprises we may have for you as well. But it's the Daily Pulse. It's the show that keeps its finger on the pulse of Lowell and the world around us. It's Inside Lowell. If Lowell is your home, this is your place. Till next time, everybody, please stay safe. Please stay warm. It's a freezing day out there today. I'll see you on the other side.